What's up, guys? I wanted to do a quick video about the state of affairs here in New York City. First off, this is a view of Brooklyn, I guess Midwestern Brooklyn. Now over here, right there, if you look in the center of this picture, there's a church-looking building with a steeple right at the horizon line. To the right of that is a crane, and then to the very right of that crane you can see the Statue of Liberty. Over here we're looking at the southern Manhattan skyline, the financial district, and you can't really see it because of the clouds, but the Freedom Tower is there. I don't really call it the Freedom Tower, I call it something else, because I call it something derogatory because there's no replacement. One building can't replace two buildings. People were coming up to me like tourists and stuff. Oh, did you see the Freedom Tower? They were very excited, and I was nonplussed. Replacing two buildings with one is not a victory to me. That's a concession. That's a defeat. But I want to talk a little bit about the state of affairs here in NYC. We have a mayor, Bill de Blasio, who's basically a communist. If I'm not mistaken, in the 1970s when he was in college, he was a member of the Young Communists or something like that. And if he wasn't, boy, to his policies and his mindset really convey that, because the city's going, basically, this whole country, the communism is like, it's like the old adage or the old story about the frogs slowly boiling in the pot, and I feel that's what's happening in this country with communism. I'm going to give New York City as an example. So we have a lot of these hotels in New York City, and what's happening is we have a growing homeless population here. It's growing. It's not exponentially growing, but it's steadily growing. And instead of repurposing an old warehouse or building some kind of facility, what the city does is they get into these deals with hotels. The Department of Homeless Services gets into deals with hotels, and what will happen is the hotel will get a contract with the Department of Homeless Services, the city, and they'll convert the whole hotel into a shelter. And they did that when I started working in hotels in the 90s. They did that, but it was infrequent, and it usually wasn't a whole hotel conversion. What would happen is typically a hotel would rent out like a half a floor or a floor, and you still have guests and stuff like that. But now the homeless problem is so pervasive, and the solution, which is a band-aid solution, and it's got to be causing the city to be nearing bankruptcy, is to take an existing hotel, strip it of some of the amenities, and make it like ADA compliant, which they all are anyway, but do certain things like take fixtures that could be deemed like I guess dangerous or unnecessary. Remove those fixtures. Remove certain amenities like gyms. Most of these little hotels have like, not really a gym, but what you call an exercise room, and have like 3 treadmills and a couple elliptical machines and some dumbbells and some physio balls, and they get rid of all that stuff. And then they take like conference rooms and they make them like community rooms and cooling rooms. Anyway, so basically the city has contracts with these hotels, and then they'll just, basically the hotel will stop accepting regular guests. And the significance of this financially for the city is that to house these homeless people, first of all, they're putting them up. Some of them are in motor lodges. It's like a 1-star. Some of them are in 2 and 3-star hotel. Well, maybe not 3, but 2 or 2.5 star or whatever. They get some amenities and they get some rooms that are new and nice and stuff like that. And some of them, there's even one on, I believe they call it Billionaires Row, which is like 57th Street between like 5th and 7th Avenue. And it's like people, the bare minimum you could get a studio apartment there for would probably be like 1.2 million. And you got these homeless people like living there, living like kings, you know? Aside from having to, you know, walk through a metal detector and sign in for their bed every night, or sign in for their room, they're really living it up, man. They're in prime real estate. They got a great view. They got some amenities. They still do housekeeping. Like these hotels, what they'll do is they'll remove the services that, for the most part, would be unnecessary, like bellman, doorman, front desk agent. The front desk will be commandeered by like one of these DHS employees, and you know, there's no more check-ins or anything like that. They just kind of man the lobby, and then but what they still retain is housekeeping. So a lot of these people are getting like their sheets changed every few days. They're getting, I don't know if they're getting their rooms cleaned. I imagine they are, maybe not. I don't know, but they're getting some standard of service. And so the crazy thing about it is, this is like communism, going back to the communism, because, I mean, think about it. You get somebody like me, I'm breaking my ass. I work like, you know, I'm a middle-aged man, and I still put in 60 hours a week, sometimes 70 here. And, well, not as common anymore. It was back like 5 or 6 years ago, but I still put in about 60 a week. I don't have to, but I do it to kind of, you know, buy some luxury items for myself. But the point is, I can't afford the kind of accommodations that they're giving these homeless people, and they don't do shit. Some of them will work. Some of them work. That's not fair. Some of them are what they call the working poor, and make a few bucks an hour less than me. And you know, they come in from their jobs and stuff. So there's that aspect. But probably more than half of them are just, you know, straight up degenerates that don't do shit. And so we're all paying for this. You know, if you're making, I don't know, over 50, 60, 70,000 a year, you're adding to the tax base, even if it's nominally, and you're paying for these people to be housed in, you know, nice accommodations that a business class traveler to the city would be paying maybe between $150 and $350 a night to stay in, and you know, they're chilling. You know, they're getting that for free. What happens is the hotel and the city cut a deal for like long-term blocks, a week, 2 weeks, a month a clip, but they don't get really a discounted rate for that. I mean, it's a little discounted. I don't know the exact specifics of it, but it's still like a premium rate. If you compare it to like housing somebody in a jail, it's like probably 15 or 20 times more than that. And that's not to say that just because these people don't have a home that they should be treated like prisoners, but I mean, let's discourage them from staying in these places long term. I mean, they got a sweet deal. They got housekeeping, they got 24-hour security, they've got some limited amenities. A lot of them are in prime locations, right? Either right near trains or express buses and stuff that like you or I would pay a premium to, you know, to have. And so this is what the city's doing. The city's basically selling us out, the working class and even the middle class, and it's just a bad deal, man. And I don't know how the city can sustain itself when they're housing, I don't know what the number is now, I think it's like 40 or 50,000, and if they're not giving them a subsidy, when, you know, if they start out in this shelter system, it could be 3 months, could be 6 months, could be 9 months, could be 2 years, could be 5 years. But even after they get out, they're still getting subsidized with like either being in one of these projects right here, or you know, they get a Section 8, which is subsidized, like a voucher. They pay like a fractional rent. It's fucking crazy, man. So this is what the Democrats, and I'm not, you know, I'm not like I'm a staunch Republican. They do stupid things too. They're a bunch of chicken hawks that are into war and pro-Israel and all this stuff, but I mean, they're definitely the lesser of two evils, because these Democrats want to plunge us into not even like a socialist type of situation like Canada. I mean, they want to plunge us into world communism. If they had their way, you know, the boots would hit the ground, and these people would be coming into our apartments and our houses and dividing them up like communist Russia. Like they just say, well, yeah, you did live here by yourself, but now two other families are going to live in this apartment and have fun sharing the shower. Meanwhile, these peasants, they're going to be living like kings. I genuinely feel like in 10 years, like the boots could hit the ground, and they could just start doing bank holidays, freezing our assets, and forcing us out of our housing, or forcing us to share our housing. It feels like, if you look at the West Coast cities, obviously I'm in New York City, I'm on the East Coast, but if you look at the West Coast cities, they're already whacked out, man. They got they got anarchy over there and socialism and everything, and it's fucking nuts. The police have no power to stop these maniacs from assaulting you and destroying stuff. And now in the East Coast cities, and you got places like Baltimore and Chicago. Chicago's the Midwest, but and then to a lesser degree New York City, where things are in serious decline. And we still have a lot of Democrats here and liberals. It's not as bad. I don't know, actually, I think it's because we have some of the wealthiest people in the world in this city that it hasn't gone full shit yet. But then again, there's even wealthier people in San Francisco, and San Francisco is a complete shithole. I don't really know what's stopping a more precipitous, accelerated decline here in New York, but we are in decline. It's just crazy. No more quality of life enforcement from the police here. It's pretty much hands off with shit that's not like a serious crime. Police will respond, but begrudgingly, and most of the time they won't do anything for stuff like trespass or shoplift. It's really, they only want to collar people for very serious things. Not like the 90s with Rudy and even Bloomberg. Bloomberg was a good mayor. He kind of maintained the status quo, and then he initiated some social programs, and kind of try to reinvigorate the city's architecture and make it more pedestrian friendly and make it more of a tourist friendly city. So he was a good mayor too. The only thing about him was, he was kind of a despot. He wanted to just declare himself the emperor here. But he was a good mayor. Anyway, so we're in decline here, and I'm a little concerned with what's going to happen in the future.